Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Steers, owner of this 1959 Echidna, which I've been racing and enjoying for the past 25 years. This car, one of three, was built in the late 50s when SCCA and sports car racing was new and relatively accessible to anyone across the country. There were three amateur racers in Hibbing, Minnesota, who decided to build three identical specials and take them to the track. Their idea was to use available American parts, frames, suspensions, and engines, put a light body on it, and give it a go. The idea was the brainchild of John Staver, a local foundry owner. Dr. Bill Larson was a local optometrist and racer. They got together with local garage owner Ed Grierson, who built all three cars. This trio was not alone in their idea. There were one-off specials being built across the country, like the Scarab, the new Puffaker special out in California, the old Yeller cars, Ack Miller's Olds-powered Devon, and the Echidnas were right in the middle of all of this. The first car, Staver's, ran in 1958, and then the other two cars were finished up in 1959. Staver's car became the test car for various improvements, which were supplied in part by Chevrolet, whose engines they used, and who supported the team with things like fuel injection systems and other parts. The cars proved fast and durable and did very well on the track, winning numerous class wins and overall firsts. And Staver's car won the B-Modified National Points Championship in 1959. A testament to their durability is that now all three cars, 65 years later, are still being raced and winning today. One car's in Oregon, one's in Arizona, and mine's in Texas. All three of us are friends. We race and hang out together at tracks, and we're having just as much fun with the cars as those guys did back in the 50s. The car became owned by Jerry Hansen, who was just starting in SCCA, a very good driver. It was ice raced on a frozen lake at a winter festival. It was co-owned at the time between Hansen and a fellow named Giannoulis. They campaigned the car together, one of which was a hill climb on an unpaved road. Giannoulis was driving. He ended up going off the course. The car was badly damaged. The car went back into Minneapolis into a shop to be rebodied, and it sat there. Eventually, the car ended up parked on a piece of property that was owned by Jerry Hansen. Jim Bartlett got involved in the 90s. Bartlett had summered up in Hibbing and knew of the cars and loved the Echidnas, and so he ended up owning Staver's car and Grierson's car at one time or another, and looked for many years for the remains of the Larson car. Through his friendship with Bill Devon, found a new old stock Devon J body and collected some parts. What he had was a frame, A-arms, rear axle, the original spoke wheels, and this new body for it. Then I got involved. My dad built several specials in the mid and late 50s and raced them out in California. And I was always going to the track and just loved this backyard tradition in racing. So I put an ad in Hemmings magazine for a special of some kind. And Jim Bartlett answered the ad. So I ended up purchasing what Jim had, took that to a shop in Addison, Illinois, Bowerly Autosport. And Al Bowerly took on the project with his son Ken. We restored the car. In 1999, the car was completely finished and totally restored. I started running the car and have raced it every year for the last 25 years. The car is a blast to drive. The seat is set down low. I'm 6'4". I needed to sit down in the car between the frame rail and the drive shaft. It's comfortable and it's very fast. Nobody passes you ever on a straight. It, like all three Echidnas, still has drum brakes, highly modified, and they work very well. It's the car it always was, fast, light, very athletic, excellent steering. The car has very good balance. The weight distribution is 49, 51, 51 and back. It's a lot of fun to drive. It was a great honor in 2004. I got a nice letter from folks at Goodwood in England, and they invited the car to run at both the Goodwood Festival, which is in the springtime, it's a hill climb, and the Revival, which is the road race on the Goodwood Airport course. I shipped it over and left it in England that summer and ran in both events. And then 4 years later, in 2008, got another invitation to go back and run the Revival, which I did. Those trips to Goodwood were very memorable. The pedals in the car are 1957 Chevrolet. That's a custom fit accelerator pedal and stop. We restored the car and added side protection. In case the car ever got hit from the side, it protects the driver. You can see the belts, they're 3-inch belts. The fire extinguisher is below the passenger seat. From the engine back to just forward of the rear axle is an aluminum floor pan. In the trunk, it has a 20-gallon tank, which all three cars have. I installed fans which pick up air and are ducted to the rear wheels, which, drum brakes live fairly deep inside the wheels, and they need to be exposed to the airstream. And these fans do it. It's switched on the dash, and they move. Each one of them moves maybe 300, 400 CFM, so it keeps the rear brakes cool. Fuel injection is 1962 Chevrolet, provided by Zora Arcus Duntov. The dry sump tank is shown there with a breather tank above it. The battery is behind the driver's seat on the left-hand side. In the photos, you'll see vented backing plates, which are also screened. So the air from the ducts through the elephant ear directed into the brake assemblies, comes in through those holes, and then is spun inside the drum by sheet metal fans that are on all four wheels, which spin the cool air and cool the brakes. The air inside then is exhausted through the brake drums, which are drilled with vent holes, and then out through the vent spaces in the wheels. When the car was restored, we painted it the original color Daytona Blue Metallic, which is a Chevrolet color. All three cars use tilt front ends instead of the factory hood. There are gills in the vent back toward the firewall, which exhaust trapped air from underneath the hood covering, which has made a big difference in moving the lift out of the car at speed. The back end of the car also has two vents in it to exhaust trapped air. You can go anywhere with this car. It's welcomed everywhere and by every race organization across the country. I've had a lot of fun with it and have a lot of great memories with wins at Sears Point, Thunderhill, Savannah, Watkins Glen, Coda. But Road America has a kind of a special place in my memory. I lived about 2 hours away in Chicago, so it was kind of a home track. The car in July this year ran beautifully there. I ran it within a second of my best time ever. So I was pretty happy with that. I enjoyed hanging out with old friends at the track, but especially seeing racers' sons, daughters, and grandkids now starting to drive themselves, going out on the track in Dad's car and coming back in 3 seconds faster than he ever ran there. As an 81-year-old, it made me realize, and after 25 years, maybe it's time to pass the car on to someone else to have fun with. And while I'm nostalgic about not having it with me, to see another generation go out and run it faster than I ever did, I would love to see that, and I'd be the happiest guy at that track.